Try to get something a little bit higher size than this, usually a larger bowl or something, but this will do. Encourage you not to use a flat plate like that because generally what happens is the cotton wool falls and one can't use it. Now, if we go through the worship backwards, right? So what's the last thing you do with cotton wool? You remember? What's the last thing you do with cotton wool? You dry the Lord with cotton wool?
No, you splash water.
Yeah, knit your another's face, okay? And fingers, okay? So that's probably a big enough piece for that, alright? Then what do we do before that? Polish, okay? A nice big piece like that, so you can get your hands around and give a really good polish, yeah? That might be a little bit too big, maybe you can make that just a little bit smaller. Yeah. And this is not going to work very well because it's actually 3 pieces. You actually need to find, because I'm sure you've all found it happens that when you have cotton wool that's more than one piece, as you're polishing it fragments and you wind up with a couple of pieces of cotton wool and it doesn't polish very well. So, something like that, that's a decent sized piece, at least for my hands, and then when I'm getting around to his waist I can really give him a good polish. Prabhupada liked to use the bright waist. He said on a number of occasions, I can tell by the deity's bright faces you're worshipping them very nicely, so keep that in mind. Okay, so then that's Nrsimha. Then for removing tilak from Garanga, we do that. And you do all this stuff before setup, and it means when you're doing the worship, it's just bang, 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 bang. Just go through it all. You don't have to think about anything, you don't have to do anything extra. And it's nothing worse than like you've got this over here and you're trying to pull a piece of cotton wool off and it's not cooperating. So, okay, so that's for polishing Garanga. Then we've got Prabhupada, okay, 2 pieces of Prabhupada. Then this is Gurudev. Yeah. Okay, so I can just push that down to make sure it doesn't. See, I find that bowl's probably a little bit on the small side. That's okay. Oh, one thing I like to do in Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's comments on the Bhagavatam, in the first chapter of the first canto, he mentions that before reading the Bhagavatam or before speaking on the Bhagavatam, we should pray to Sukadeva Goswami to gain his understanding of the Bhagavatam. So in the same way, I feel that before we start the worship of the deities, we should pray to the deities to please bless us that we can worship them in a way that's pleasing to them. Trying to take up this mood of a humble servant. Yeah? So I always find that's helpful. Okay, so that's our cotton wool. Throw out receptacle, we've got that there. Padya Argat Marupak, that's great. Now, when I set these up, I'll put them beside me because I find when you put them in the front, it's too cluttered, because I need to be closer to the deities so I can reach the deities. And I put them down the side, you'll see I'll put the handles out so they're easy to pick up. Just little things, if you think about what you're doing, little things will make a difference time-wise. Where's my, did you find those Brahma threads?
Yeah, all the deities.
Oh, great, thank you. Fragrant oil. This is one of the things that, 2 things that devotees forget, right, during the worship, when they're setting up, these 2.
Yeah.
Yeah? These are the things I've forgotten most easily. But what I've done in Australia, in our deity department, is in the top of the cupboard for the small deities, there's a tray. On the tray there's pins, blue tack, any turban pieces they need, petticoats, whatever, and the oil. It's always on the tray. And what happens if the oil's not there? The carrier gets there and where's the oil? So just make sure those things are there. Water pot. Okay, so a couple of things about these water pots. I like most of this paraphernalia I purchased myself. Now you'll notice with these water pots is you can put your hand inside to clean them. A lot of the water pots you get, you can't get your hand inside. They're really sharp around the edges, so you wind up cutting yourself as you're trying to clean them. So these ones here are good because you can actually get inside and clean them and make sure the water that's inside of the pot. Like this one's not particularly clean. I would encourage you to use this paraphernalia to make it clean. Because keep in mind, going back to the meditation we were talking about this morning, this is a meditation. It's like we're serving the deity with this pot, so we will make it as clean as we possibly can for the deity. Another thing is like, I'll never carry, I had an experience maybe about 15 years ago in Melbourne Temple. I was walking out of the temple room and just done the Arti, Prabhupada's Arti, so I was walking out of the temple room carrying the Arti tray, and the conch was sitting on the stand. And something happened, and because it was going through a bit of a crowd, and the conch fell off the stand. Luckily, I was able to catch it, but ever since then, I've never carried a conch on the stand because they always fall off. If you're going to put it on the tray, best is like that. If you have to put it this way, make sure the opening is towards the outside, so it's less in. You can easily roll that way, but not so easily that way. Okay. Padya, fragrant oil, Gopi Chanda. Okay. So here's our tilak. Now you're noticing here there's lots of small seeds. So it's just good to pick them out because you can imagine what it'd be like if someone was rubbing a seed in your face.
Yeah.
You probably wouldn't like it very much. So just keep in mind that we are worshipping persons here, and we want to make everything as nice as we possibly can for them. And of course, some seeds will get through, but that's okay because when you rub your thumb over the cotton wool, then you should be able to find the rest of them. But leave them out. Some devotees will use like a little strainer and just squeeze the lemons through that. Now, I usually just mix it up with my finger. Now, when you're making up the tilak, just make enough for the deities. Now, see, this is kind of like it's almost like a batter. See how it's bubbling? You see how it's bubbling up?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, can you all see that? It's like bubbling a little bit, frothing. That's good. That means you've got the right amount of lemon juice in that. If you make it too runny, it won't polish. If you make it too dry, it'll be too hard to get off. Yeah, so that's quite good. We need for the assessment. We need to have trash cans in here as well. All right. Okay, so we've got the tilak and lemon juice, water pot, bathing conch stand, bathing receptacle, chana reader receptacle. We don't need that because we'll just use the tray. What you can do sometimes, like this is kind of quite a large tray to carry full of tilak. Full of water. So what I'll do generally is I'll put the pot there. I'll lift this up here. I'll get when I'm finished and get this bowl here and scoop it up and put the water back in there, so that I'm not carrying this big tray. Because the trays we've got in Australia are kind of like about this big, so it's really hard to carry them full of water. And they tend to sort of once it gets in motion, you lose the water, and we have to sort of go out downstairs, out again, and then across the sink. And it's, or like in London, you've got those stairs. Not good to carry a tray full of water. So just something to be mindful of. And of course, everything you're going to adjust for different places. Different temples you do different things. You don't really need oops, Krishna. That's not very good. That's the problem. One of the things with wearing glasses is like here I can focus, but out the side it's different. So it's kind of funny. Can we get some more?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's you. Look at it. You messed up your arrangement. I do worry. So how do I? Thank you. And okay, I spilled some water on here. So the idea is, okay, it's just a bit of water, it doesn't matter. No, we're presenting this to Krishna. Even like sometimes if you're setting up bog offerings and stuff like that, and you spill something down the side of the plate, just have a cloth there or something just to wipe the bowl up so it's a nice presentation. Because that's I remember years ago in Vrindavan, Bhakti Churu Maharaj and Sava Prabhu were doing a cooking demonstration. And one of the points that Bhakti Churu Maharaj was making was that what it looks like is really important because it looks nice. If the facade of the bog looks attractive, that actually stimulates the digestion. So keep that in mind that it should look nice. Right, and where's our? Thank you. Okay, thanks very much. I'm trying to do that again. All right, so where are we going? Then Thank you. Bathing receptacle, charm reader, a towel for each deity. I recommend 2 towels for each deity, and I'll explain why. It's like, after you polish the deities, like me, I've got really dry skin, so it's not such a problem. If you've got oily skin, or even a little bit oily, then your fingerprints, the oil on your fingers will leave marks on the deities. So generally what I do is I'll have a cloth in each hand. I'll pick the deities up, pick the Lord up with my right hand, and then dry underneath with my left hand. Then put him down on the table, then give him an overall dry, and then wrap him up in one of the towels. Yeah? So I use 2 towels. If you want to use 1, fine, but I always use 2. I just find it does a better job. Clothing, pins, ornaments, that's all there. I also put the garlands in here just because they're going on at the same time. And you know, I also, part of the service I do, I arrange the devotees to clean the paraphernalia. So I believe in keeping the paraphernalia to a minimum. You know, if we don't need to use it, don't use it, because someone's got to clean it. And in the temple, not always it's you, it's someone else, and it's hard work cleaning the paraphernalia. Ornaments, gopi chandan, so we have that here. You can use a silver twig, you can use a tulsi, a silver stick, a tulsi twig, so many different things. We used to have a little silver stick, but it disappeared. Sandalwood paste. Okay, so I encourage you to have this quantity of sandalwood paste. Reason being is you obviously you've got to put some on their forehead, but you also put in the bathing water, because the idea is to make the bathing water pleasing, so it's got no fragrances. Prabhupada said to bathe the deities in water in which fragrant flowers have been soaking for some time. And also you can put on the garland as well, because usually garlands don't have so much scent, but the chandan does. Okay, so tulsi. Now, this is something that a lot of people don't look at so much, but if you get a tulsi leaf like that, that is not going to stick on the deity's feet very well. I mean, it's tulsi, it's worshipful, but it's not going to stick on their feet. So my tendency is to try to find tulsi leaves that, not flat is good, but better are tulsi leaves which have a slight backward curve on them, if you can find them. Because then they fit on the curvature of the deity's feet. When they're bigger, when the deities are bigger, then a big leaf like that is fine. But smaller deities, most of these ones will be okay because they're quite soft. Like this one here, she'll work okay. Yeah? But if they're V-shaped, they won't stick on the feet very well. So just things to keep in mind. It's not a matter of, I've offered tulsi now, that's all that matters. The fact is we're trying to ornament the deity's feet with tulsi. Incense, ghee lamp, if they're not lighting so well, this one will light quite well, but if they're not lighting so well, put a bit of camphor on them. And also, as you can see, Yuvadi's done, she's pushed it in there, so it's not going to fall out. Camphor lamp if you want it. Food offerings, so we're going to have bog offering here. Picture of Guru, picture of Prabhupada, this manual, the lighter, matches. If you follow the list, you're not going to miss anything, but now this procedure is slightly different from yours. This is the procedure that's going to go in the next edition of the book. Now the one change you need to make, I have told a number of you already, is after putting on the deity's lower cloth, so it's, what's the mantra? Idam Vastram. Then what's after Vastram? Then Upavita. Okay. So the order is slightly different, following the Chaitanya Charanamrita. So Vastram, Upavitam, Achamanam, Tilakam, Utaliam, or Utaliam. Okay. So I think, is there anything else we need to discuss with what we've got here, or we're good to go? So do me a favor, if I forget something, remind me. I am a product of Kali Yuga. Yeah, I have a very bad memory.
For table cleaning and floor cleaning,
It's already in there.
we had to keep it.
The cloth is already in there. So they didn't want to have to carry it, okay?
Do you tell me once again that the order of these mantras was
So it's Vastram, Upavitam, Achamanam, Tilakam. Yeah? And also, I have 2 trays here. Now, one thing I'm quite conscious of is keeping prasad and bhoga completely separate. there's various injunctions in the Shastra that if you offer prasadam to the deity, which has already been offered, you can take birth as a leper for 10,000 births. Now, I don't think I'm transcendental enough to avoid that one, so I want to be careful about stuff like that. So I've got an empty tray here. Now, usually you'll see, I usually put that just to the left of the table, so that everything I take off the deity, I put straight onto this on this tray. But I don't put the wet bathing cloths in there because they could, because this has got on it, and also we don't want to wet the deity's clothes. Okay, so I can take this one if someone can.
Prabhuji,
Yeah.
even in the section where it's Ketani Pushpani, the book says Pushpa, then Tulsi Patram and Malyam. Which other they said first offer Tulsi Patram,
Yeah.
Pushpam, and then Malyam.
Yeah. The good questions. So usually most padatis, this is what this is called, a padati. Most padatis or prayogs will offer the pushpa first. But when you're dealing with small deities, if you put the flowers there first, where are you going to put tulsi? You've got to move the flowers out of the way. So if you put the tulsi first on the lotus feet of the deity, then you put the flower. And it's not really a contradiction because one of the names of tulsi is pushpasara, which means the best of flowers. So you're offering the best flower first, and then you can put the garland at that point, or you can put the garland after the bog offering, or you can put the garland. My tendency is to put the garland earlier on when I'm putting on the necklaces and stuff, because otherwise what happens is you put the necklaces on, then you put the garland over the top of the necklace, and you can't see the necklaces, so the necklaces become somewhat redundant. So I do things a little bit different, keeping in mind that I'm serving a person. But I do get all the items there. Okay. So if someone can grab these other things, I'll carry this one, and if we can then go into the room 1.
Куда мы идем? Коняшка, можно к тебе? Ну, давай, сейчас идем сюда. Вытащи мои наушники и воткни свои.
Где они?
Меня там подожди. Сейчас. Посмотри, что там происходит. Oh no. Нифига себе пахнет.
Now, generally, I'll take full bases before going to the altar, but I do it bare chested. I'm a little bit shy because there's so many ladies here. Yeah, just did it.
Should they say it so they can hear it? So the
Can we do it again?
No, I'm just saying, but when they do the assessment, when they say Ashman, should they pronounce it now?
Yeah, we have to hear you say the mantras with the ashman, otherwise we don't know. Any assessment you do, you need to say the mantras loud enough so the devotee assessing can hear the mantras, yeah? Otherwise, how do we know what you've said? You could have been chanting, Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola, for all we know.
No,
So,
not these.
Also, like, generally the way I set up is I leave space at the back so I can come onto the asana from the back. But you know,
Say Idamasa,
Ты не слышишь?
not absolutely required.
Тебе надо подсесть громче. Это на канале радио.
there's no water.
Радио одноканальное. Слышно?
Yes,
Только
we can ask questions.
What's the general consensus? Do you want me to just go through it, or you want to ask questions as we go? Because it's going to take longer.
Then you should know your questions.
Yeah,
now.
write everything down and we can discuss it at the end.
So what is the final decision? You will go through or go through?
Who wants to go through? Okay, who wants to ask questions as we're going? Go through wins out. That's right.
Настоящий предлагаю все остальное воды. Он сказал,
So I'll explain a few things as we're going. So you see, like, I have nothing on this side except the bell, right? Because why? Separation from start and bulk. But what do you offer the deities with your left hand? Nothing. Nothing except the bell. So why put any of this over there? It means you're going to have to reach over like that, which will slow you down. Yeah. So it's all just here. It's all at my fingertips, literally, and it's in the order of Padya, Arya, Hashimoto, Tak, Ganda, Pushpa, Zed, Rupa, Deepa. It's all just in the order I offer it. Yeah? So it just makes life a bit easier for me. And put things, because we're conditioned living entities, we need visible reminders, and it just helps us. Like, I'll take the Brahman threads off, and I'll put them in front of my Guru Maharaj because I'm looking at him during the worship, so I put them in front of him. Touch your stapana. Okay, so I've done the stapana now. So just purify my hands. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Radha Sri Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. So this Kara Surya, I just rub some chandan on my hands. Okay, so I'm doing all the shuddhis. All the straight back, pushpe, 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 chai, vinecha, hang swaha. Now, I wouldn't be bathing in cold water today, so I encourage you to heat water up on the stove. And so as I go through the Tulsi, anything that I think is a good candidate for putting on the deity's feet, I'll see, like that's a really nice leaf for putting on. So now it's got that little curvature. That'll sit on his feet really nice. So I'll put that one aside and make sure I save that for his feet. I am by nature the eternal servant of Krishna, but because of my misfortune, I've been imminent before him time memorial. Unless I identify myself by the continuous one cycle for self-including threefold injuries. Now, as a result of some unimaginable good fortune, my spiritual master's mercy has enabled me to know that I am Krishna's eternal servant, in potential spiritual part, being completely part of destroys the solid bodies. And so by the order of my spiritual master, I have obtained a good portion of souls who has been following his footsteps, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sri Radha Govardhana Devi. Naham Vipuna Charati Vaishnava Vaishnava Sudnona, Hamgani Chagri Hapati Mino Sriyatra, Kim Tupatan Niklanda Paramanam, Jopikata. Yetikana Kushnam Jai Panimakuna Saha. At the yoga pit in Sri Mayapur, in spiritual abode of Navadvip, Lord Torres' spiritual throne. On his right is Lord Nityananda, on his left is Gadadhar, in front with folded joint palms of Sri Veda, and Sri Vastakur, who holds an umbrella over his head. On a dual platform, the logo of his Holy Spirit, my spiritual master, sits. Kata Sriman Navadipe, Dvinekam, Jamdrum, Varabaya Pratashantam, Smaratinam. So now I'll just go through the 16 items of unsubstituted. Actually, I jumped the gun a little bit. I should have said Jayam Vishnupat. Should have Bhakti Gyan Maharaj. So now we do the Bhakti Puja. Gurudev Sakala Sahan Baladyaho Nijamanis
Gurudev Sakala Sama Gurudev Shakati Devana Pratata
Sabetana Ivo Harinama Sukhe Aparada Gurudev Aveheno Kripa Lave Jana Vitaka Voivenata Shakti Buddhi Namiyati Din Kodamoriyatna Gurudev Kripa Vindugina Gurudev Sometimes it's a little bit on the thin side. You've got to be careful, otherwise it will wind up running down his face. And not a nice thing to have. It's really kind of too bad. Sakshat Haritena Samastasham Kintu Prabhu Ya Priya Eva Tasya Vandegala Sri Sadhana Yasha Prasada Bhagavan Prasada Yasha Prasada Gatayogi Nayam Suvam Sashaya Sasri Sanya Vandegala Sri Sadhana Shri Radha Nityananda Shringaratan Mandira Majanadu Yutasya Bhakta Janiyam Jatopi Vandegala Shri Charanarvindam Omakyanti Mradasya Ganandhara Shalakaya Chakshulavikam Janatasmai Shri Gurve Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Staya Vade Shrimati Bhakti Vigana Swami Namane Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Sadguru Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Jai Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Paribra Jakacharya Ashtottara Shatashi Srimad Advaita Sathai Charla Linda Bhaktivinoda Swami Prabhupada Ki. So the worship of Prabhupada is a bit more simplified. Yeah? We just go straight into the Manasa Puja of Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Krishna Hare Rama. Krishna Krishna Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Krishna. Tam Opika Vishara Vrestani Akanji Seva Dasham Pradaya Kurmam Brajkani Shri Dharam Giri Sevane Rasi Sukunam Sapado Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Stavate Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Pramane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prasharane Nivishishwari Paschat Vishishwari Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. So, there's two ways you can do this worship. You can do it all in Lord Chaitanya, then Nityananda. We can do Chaitanya, Nityananda, Chaitanya, Nityananda. I can't do it with a mix of both. Svadunyas charutire spuritam bhakti brihat kurma krishna bhagatram. Nityam So if I do something wrong, feel free to correct me.
Can I ask now?
Consensus was no. Now, this tray is kind of easy because it's already got the circles in it. So I just follow the big circle, because if you follow the small circle, you're not going to fit cling in the middle unless you write really small. And if you struggle to write cling in Bengali or Sanskrit or Hindi or whatever, just write the transliteration, it's fine. Okay, so there's a circle and our petals. Downward triangle first, then upward triangle. Cling. Be generous with the petals around the outside edge, just wash the yantra, and then tulsi. I have seen different ways of avoiding the mess on the floor. One way I saw is you know what a gindi is? A gindi is like a spouted water pipe. So you have like a tray like that with a gindi there, and just like with the spout, you just purify your hands, so that way all the water goes in there. You know, more paraphernalia to wash. Okay, so Pitta Puja, we've done that, and Lord Chaitanya with articles. Okay, so then first off we start with, what's the first thing? Pushpanjali. Pushpanjali is a means of approaching the personalities. We're asking them, you know, to please allow us to worship them. Yes, Pushpanjali. Okay.
Nrsimha, can you say it more loud?
Idamakyam Kringoraya Namaha. Idamakyam Kringoraya Namaha. Idamakyam Kringoraya Namaha. Idamakyam Kringoraya Namaha. So, you know, use the spoon for stirring up your Madhupak. I mean, you can offer with a spoon if you like, but usually Madhupak, it's four parts honey. It's mostly honey. So if you offer with a spoon, you're going to wind up dripping honey all over the place. So now, usually I would have put these across here straight away without waiting for them. So you don't need those two anymore. That's the arga and the Madhupaka. Yeah, Madhupaka arga. Yeah. Murti should be okay. Murti is clothing, so we'll just bring them forward a little bit. So now we don't need these flowers, we can just put them in the tray pot. And when I undress the deities, generally what I'll do is I'll line all the paraffin up really neatly so that when I come to putting the paraffin away, it's not just this big pile of stuff on the tray. So I'll have all the necklaces lined up, all the clothing and everything like that. So at this point here, we'd offer the shoes to invite the deity into the bathing tray. You can do one or two things. You can touch the shoes and go, or if you want to, you can do that to physically indicate where you want them to go. So either way, it's fine. I just generally touch the shoes and and do up the Velcros, please, because otherwise these hooky parts that they catch on things. And you see how it catches on that? And it just ruins the clothes. Some temples around the world don't use Velcros anymore. They use fresh studs. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Oh, saffron like this. Nice and warming. Saffron's a warming oil, so it's good in the
You don't perform virtue shuddhi before you put them in the Sanjay?
You can if you want to. I just, because they're, like Bhakti Shuddhi in my experience is more, like as it's described, it might be more related to a Shila. Because we're going to polish him with tilak and lemon juice, it's going to take everything off anyhow. Like even in the Hari Bhakti Vilasa, it mentions that you do udvartana after you put the oil on, which means you get a cloth and you wipe off the oil. But it seems somewhat redundant to me because then you're going to use tilak to take that off anyhow. So I'm just not in favour of doing things you don't really need to do.
So what's the students do? Because in the book it says what is student.
Well, I mean, if they've got tilak and stuff on their feet, I mean, chandan and tulsi on their feet, you can wipe that off with just a bit of damp cotton wool. You can do that out or you can do that in, it doesn't really matter. What does it say here? Murti Shuddhi, remove these, cleanse the with cotton. Yeah. So you can do that, you can just wipe those things off. But, yeah. Especially if they've got, chandan on their feet. So there you go, I made a mistake already. Alright, so now we polish the deities. Now we've got quite a largish piece of cotton wool. You'll see why I prefer that. Alright, so just get some water and make sure it's far like that. And just wet them. Now the reason we do this is part of the udvartana to take the oil off, but also to make it easier for the tilak to go on. Yeah? So wet that, and that'll also facilitate the polishing. I'm not sure if there's enough. We'll see. When you turn the deers, turn them by the base. Don't turn them by these are not handles, these are hands. And he's got a bit of mark on his forehead from the tilak, so nice, strong love there. And you may notice that I'm just doing one deity at a time, because while I'm doing this, Nrsimha will be going like that in the back. And also, I mean, I wouldn't stand there with no clothes on while someone else is getting bathed, so I just don't think it's really appropriate. See that? Can you all see that? That's, if you're getting that, that's good, because that means you're taking the oxide off the. Now, even though we understand this is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he has manifested in a metal form. And Prabhupada likes these metal forms to look very beautiful and shiny. So this is where this is really good, because then you can wrap it around. No, sorry to ask. Can you just put maybe a generous teaspoon of tilak in there? It's a bit more lemon juice. And the idea with the tilak is not to be wasteful. Don't use more than you need. I remember years ago, maybe more than 20, maybe 25 years ago, I used to play Garanga Mahaprabhu on Radha Madhava's altar in Prabhupada every morning. And one day I came out and there was like about a teaspoon and a half of tilak left in the bowl. And the devotee who was doing the paraphrase service at that time, it might have been Adishwar who was doing the paraphrase, and he got on my case about it. This is so wasteful, this is sinful. It is, because I was wasting my tilak. So I really took that to heart. And I don't like to waste anything. Underneath. Now, it's good to have a cloth to wipe all that off, because you don't want to get that over these clothes. And I saw some devotees yesterday, they were putting this towel on the floor. Not really advisable, because then it becomes unclean. Right, now while the tilak's still wet, don't let the tilak dry. And that's the problem with doing 2 liters at a time, is the tilak dries out really fast. So then just really wet. Huh? In a minute. I haven't actually started the bathing yet, as I say. And the places you want to watch out for is around the eyes, the mouth, the ears, in between the fingers, because that's where the tilak's going to stay. Yeah? Thank you. I'm just getting all that tilak off. It's really important to get the tilak off because the tilak will, because the lemon juice is there, it will continue to grow the deities if you don't get it off.
Без лимонного сока делайте сразу. Без лимонного сока сразу делайте. Без лимонного сока.
All right, where are we up to? Thank you. And I also like to keep the bathing water covered. When I'm using a conch, depends on how big your hand is. I always put it like that because then I can't drop it. I learnt that from Nitai Dalram, who's a Shalagram Pujari here. You always see me hold the conch like that, with the finger inside, or if his hand is small, put the thumb inside. Because I think you'd be really disturbed if you drop the conch on the deity, so, and he'd probably be disturbed too.
But then the water won't touch the.
Well, just don't put so much in there. Yeah. And if you're worried about that, use a bigger conch. You know what I'm saying?
Shamam Trimangalalitani Yata Prakasha Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Tamachutamanadi Ananta Rupam Ajan Purana Purusham Navayovanamsha Vedesh Dulabha Madhulabha Matma Bhakta Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Shatatasa Sapragamyo Yogataki Mansho
So Prabhupada said to buff the deity's faces with a soft cloth, so that's what I was just doing then. The idea with buffing, you should make them shiny. And Prabhupada liked the deities to be shiny. And just a little bit tilt so the water drains off, and then just dry it underneath. And just make sure you give a good wipe on the back of his arms and his back just to make sure there's no tilak, because your facilitator will look. You see this tilak? Yeah, fingers. Is there anything there? Can you see anything? And then just up between his legs. Now, there's a reason I do it this way also, is that I'll put on his tilak as well, and his Brahmin thread and neck piece, so that by the time I finish dressing, doing the same for Nityananda, Mahaprabhu's tilak is dry, so that I can put on the upper cloth necklaces and stuff like that. If you're doing a shirt, also the same kind of thing. I remember when I started doing service at a temple where I am in Australia. most of the shirts had tilak on the inside of them because the devotees were just dressing these and putting tilak on them, putting clothes on straight away. Huh? You can do. Oh yes, I'll put it first, isn't it? Okay, so thank you. See, I told you I forget. So Bastra. Nrsimha. And just be careful not to drag it over his face. Yeah. Nrsimha. And this is just something you just learn from practice what sort of consistency is going to work for you. And I find what works for me is I start from the top and go down. Other devotees like to start at the bottom and go up. So whatever works for you, just do that. It's not going to be the same for everyone. So, you want me to do Murti Shuri, yeah? So, I mean, the main thing for Murti Shuri is you can, if you want to wipe the tilak off the face, you can do that now. Any chandan that might be there, some of these are back.
Is it easier to take the dhoti off?
Sorry?
Is it easier to take the dhoti off?
Whatever works, It's not like, yeah, whatever works. I mean, if you think it's easy to take the dhoti off, I mean, I can do it quite easy, but whatever works. It's not really, personally, I don't do it that much because I just feel it's easier just to do it with the tilak. Lemon juice. I just did that. You don't watch your body. Just make sure you cover up the oil once you've used it because it's easy to spill. Maybe we have another experience going on. Like, when we at our temple, I have 2 pots of bathing water about the same size as that, just because I believe in using a lot of water for the deities. Did I mention why I put the bathing pot on the left side? Yeah, it's just a time thing, because then I don't have to put the conch down. It's easier to put the bell down than to put the conch down, because the conch can fall off the stand and stuff like that. So. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama. Thanks, Prabhu. Okay, so we start with his face. And I'm just wondering, they've got some strong tilak stains on their faces, most of the deities. Is anyone putting tilak on with lemon juice in it? Because I haven't seen this normally staining so much. So I'm just, it makes me wonder if someone's using tilak with lemon juice in it on their faces. Because it's really hard to get off, which is not normal.
Maybe it happened this summer.
Now, all the Bengalis are wonderful Vaishnavas.
Yeah. Разбирать спокойно.
So also try to avoid as much as you can getting tilak in their eyes. And no need to polish the hair or the hands, because you're not going to make the paint shine anymore. You actually just take it off. See? So it's nice and. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Rama. And if you're leaving like that amount behind, that's okay. Yeah? Try not to leave any more than that, because it's wasteful. And it's actually getting harder and harder to get good tilak. Usually, these days, it's all full of stones. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama, and yes, it is okay to turn the deities around. Otherwise, you can't see what's going on in the back.
Lakshmi Sahasra Shatasambrata Sevyamano Govinda Vasi Purusham Tamam Bhajami Venam Pranantamadabinda Dalaya Kaksham Varhavatam Samasitam Bhuja Sundaram Kanda Kakoti Kamaniya Vishesha Shobham Govinda Mari Purusham Tamam Bhajami Venum Tvakantamaravindra Dalaya Taksham Bharavatam Samasitam Buddhasundaram Kanda Pakochikamaniya Vishesha Shobham Govinda Mari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Anula Chandra Kalasadvanamalya Vamshi Ratnam Ganam Pranayakeli Kalavilasam Shyamam Tribanga Lalitani Yata Prakasham Govinda Mari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Tamachutamanadarupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanamscha Vedeshu Dulamam Adulamam Atma Bhakto Govinda Mari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Fantastu Koti Sakavatsara Sampragamyo Vayoratavi Manaso Munipungavanam Sovyasti Yatva Parisinya Vichintya Tattve Govinda Mari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Requires great meditation, this one. That's why I much prefer them when you've got it. You can get these, they've got a drain on them. It's much easier to use. Because then all the liquids just flow out. Oh, sorry, I just need to give my legs a break. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. You see, they're not standing here with no clothes on. You know, even like when I undress, like, cause I usually dress out Radha Krishna deities, the new Gopal, and then, you know, after I undress the deities, you know, I'll take all the clothes and jewelry out and then bring in new clothes. I'll always leave Radharani's choli on so she's not standing there, because she's got like a kind of like a lady version of a gamcha on, so that she's not standing there with no clothes on. bring them closer so they're easier to. So. I think, sorry? I think these are synthetic. They're not very absorbent and the moisture stays on the surface. Just, I don't know, next time I bring cloth, just try and check out, see how long it absorbs. Because flannelette is very absorbent, that's what's nice about it. And one thing you can do also, I wouldn't use this oil because you'll probably stain it. You can also put a little bit of scent on the clothes if you like. If you've got like a nice light oil, just put a little bit of scent on the clothes, it's quite nice for the deities. See, even like this fluff coming off it, I'm sure it's synthetic fluff. So just remember also when you're putting jewelry, necklaces, anything on, try not to drag it over the deity's faces. Nice feeling for them. You know much? I'll do that myself. I kind of thought about that before because it's too huge, so I want to be closer. And that's, you know, like sometimes when the deities are all the way back there, like I thought, you know, if I put the neck beads on, I might bump the deities and, you know, like that. So I thought, I'll wait till I bring them closer and then I'll put the neck beads on. So now they're closer, I'll do that. Yidam tilakam, klingnitam dayanamaha. Oh, not much more to go. Now, I think I mentioned this the other day, but with neck beads, I personally, like these ones here, I keep them long. So if I'm ever getting a massage, that's all I need to do. I don't have to find, because sometimes finding the joint in them is so annoying. So this wouldn't work my head very easily. Except when I'm wearing glasses, of course. So, thank you. And then just like that, you know, and then you can just like pull the long part down the back or something like that. And it just makes it quicker. I mean, obviously you want to make it convenient for the deities, but you also want to make it so you're efficient. Prabhupada said if it takes more than an hour to bathe and dress the deities, you know what you're doing. So, you know, try to be efficient. And where we got 55 minutes from, see, some of you might wonder, why only 55 minutes? About, I don't know, maybe more than 15 years ago now, I videotaped Geneva after we were doing the shallow worship, and he did it in 55 minutes. And there was a lot more involved in the shallow worship than there is in what we're doing here. You know, they bathe them with punch on red or punch on red star and all sorts of stuff like that. Okay, so now we've done that. When we do the Hariam, we've got some
tulsi patram.
Oh, that's interesting. So there's no mantra for the upper cloth, so you just put the upper cloth on. But you can use the mantra idam uttariyam if you want to.
Tulsi?
But no need to. Okay.
Mastu.
So Imani Avarani, now I'm going to put the
Можно потом.
I won't do the garlands first because I don't think we need to. Just looking at the size of the garlands. These are nice beads. Did anyone bring these, or we've had these for a while? Now, just when you put the bead on, these beads, just keep in mind the length of the garland, because see they're almost the same length. So what's the point of putting the beads on if the garland's going to go straight over the top of them? It becomes redundant. This is a word I learned from Ram Bhadra. He uses the word redundant quite a bit. Ram Bhadra in New York. He's a wonderful Pujari, very, very expert dresser of the deities. So you can set this up so it goes in the side, and then you'll find, because also the necklace that the deities have got on, the red one, has got like a drop pendant in it. So it looks nice. A little stiff. I like them better when they've got cotton or something. Yeah, it's a little bit stiff. Like that. Okay, other than that, we're still going. Oh, okay, that's interesting. Might need to cut the pins on these things a bit. No, the pins are too long. They need to be half the length because then they're sticking out. And as best you can, when you put the jewellery on, try to do it so that you can't see the blue tack. Blue tack is not the most attractive thing you've ever seen on a beauty. Yeah. Try and put it in a way you can't see it. I mean, it's nothing worse like, the deity's got his hands like this, and then, you're looking from the front, and they put the ring around there, and you can see this big line of blue tack. It's not what I'm standing there to look at, it's the blue tack. But, try to, like, put the jewellery for the darshan is one thing I learned from Janani Oswald. That's, he explains it gloriously. But also, try to do it so you can't see the pins, you can't see the blue tack. And then these things here, generally better to open them up, because oftentimes they're quite, like there's a little bit of wire there, so that'll scratch the gears. So just open them up so they don't touch the gears, and then just close them. It doesn't take much longer. You don't really need to tackle these types of things. Just squeeze them on, they're fine.
And also when you open it, you don't just drag it down.
Yeah, exactly the same thing. Experienced Pujari here dresses Ranga Mahaprabhu every day. So don't just drag things off the gears, please. Avanani, okay.
Нет.
So you can offer the ganda. Like some people would have put the crown on now, but I find if you put the crown on, it's really hard to put the chandan on. There's not much space, especially with small beads. So and in hotter weather, your arms, feet, hands, things like that. It's fine. Okay, so now I guess I'm under pushpa. Janani was describing to him, to Prabhupada,
how he was doing the service of small deities. And he was talking about bathing the deities, and then they dry the deities. And then Prabhupada, he got quite animated. He said, yes, and at that time, put the tulsi on the Lord's lotus feet. So he's telling him, like, as soon as you're bathing and drying, to put tulsi on. Janani Asura took that to mean that the first thing that should go on the deity after bathing is tulsi, before clothes or anything. But if you're going to do that, it's fine to do that. But just be mindful that you be careful when you're putting the dhoti on, because it may knock the tulsi off their feet.
Also, Charanivas Prabhu asked us to put tulsi between their feet, not on the feet.
Huh?
Charanivas Prabhu asked us to put tulsi between their feet.
To explain what?
Between the
Twice, right? Yeah, because he's Bhakta Avatar. That's what.
I don't know. I always put on the feet. And I mean, maybe that's a new realization he's had, because he showed me years ago to put on the feet, so that's what I do. But, you know, main thing is tulsi needs to be there. Okay, so tulsi's there. There's no way to put the flower. This is show there. And you can leave the crowns off until after the bog offering if you like. You can put them on now if you want. Whatever's going to work best for you. You wouldn't believe how many times I've done that. And when you're doing this, when you're offering these items, no need to purify anything because you did it at the start. And you don't offer to the Guru because you've already worshipped the Guru. Yeah. We can, like as I just said, you can do it after the jewelry. You can do it. You definitely want to do it after the garland. You wouldn't do it while you're doing the jewelry. Or you can do it after the bulb offering. It doesn't matter. There's a few details here, so please forgive me if I forget anything. Australia. Yes, thank you. So generally, you put the tulsi the way she grows. They don't always cooperate. And these ones we put on this bit later. Now, when you're up in the Bible, don't look at the Bible, don't look at the deities. I could have taken the plate. I should have taken the plate away before offering the sarvam. Covered up, so. Okay. Now, if you have time, you can offer Maha Prasad to the deities. I guess I'll show you how to do it, if you might want to know. Yeah, where are we? This one's Mudder Park. Okay, so we can take the Mudder Park, a little bit of Mudder Park, and put the Mudder Park on the plate. All the things that might be nice for the guru, etc., you can put on the plate. You can put the Mudder Park on the plate. You can put some flowers from their lotus feet on the plate, because you say Nimalya. Nimalya means the things from their feet, the flowers, tulsi, chanda, and stuff like that. If I was doing shalagram worship, I'd bring another bowl in and put some Charnamrita. Although you probably find this Charnamrita is not particularly palatable because it's got the tilak in it. So this will do. And then, so we say Idam Mahaprasadam Nimalyarikam Yurve Namaha Idam Mahaprasadam Nimalikam Salveshnavebhya Namaha. Very simple things. It only takes a few seconds. Once you've done sarvam.
So also about that you can show it with the hands.
Huh?
You can show it with
You can also show with the hands, but it's just simple like that.
the hands.
Mahavatam Salasam Buddhism. Yeah. Prabhupada told Malati, Lord Chaitanya must always wear a peacock feather. So my leg is killing me, so I'm going to feel my knees. And if you find it difficult to sit cross-legged, you can always sit on a chair with a raised table. We have that because at the temple where I am, the average age of our Pujaris is 62 years old. So most of them can't bend their knees so easily. Huh? Yeah, OAPs, eh? You were there somewhere. So where's the peacock feather? You got one? Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Bonjour, spasiba. Okay, so we've offered Mahaprasadam. So we chant Directed Mantra Japa. And just to go more and more right.
Вообще по-разному.
Hari Purata Sundara Yuti Kadam Prasad Krita Sada Nira Kandare Purata Vasashinam Om Mahabharanyaya Krishna Premaya Krishna Chaitanya Namo Maha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Angahira Priya Hina Virihina Prayamada
Astu tat sarva manchita sadhaka Yashin vaigunyam jatam tadosham prasamana Shri Krishna smaranam karomi
Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Ki Jai Advaita Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Nitya Gop Premanand. And one thing that you can do, I've discovered over the years, is like sometimes the tilak doesn't look so nice. Yeah, I don't find it. Some devotees are really expert at putting on tilak. I'm not one of those devotees. So you can get the pointy edge of this just on the side, and you just clean it up a little bit so it does look nicer. But it's always good to steady your arm on something. So one of the things I've been learning at home is painting deities, and I find it really easy when you're resting your hand. You need to steady your hand. But I'm really lucky because I've got a really good teacher. Have you ever seen that picture in the where Vera Bhadra's cutting off the head of Dakshin? What canto is that? Fourth canto. That really fearsome one. I mean, he's really. Wow, what a scene. Anyhow, the devotee who painted that, he lives in our temple, so he's been teaching me how to paint the deities. And if you see our deities, if you go online, Sri Sri Radha Govindandari, you look at their tilak and their eyebrows, like, wow. It's just, drop dead beautiful. Okay, now I can ask questions. Yeah.
I will ask this last you chanted Gayatri after offering Mahaprasadam to the Guru. The goddess will complete the stuti and the of Mahaprabhu, and then you offer Mahaprasadam to the Guru.
Sorry? I'm not following. Say again. I chanted Gayatri.
Oh, that you offer Mahaprasadam before chanting Gayatri, and the book has it
and the
placed
pranams of the
after pranams.
is it flexible or
Like you should finish the worship before you that, and then
No, the Gayatri is part of the stuti. So I chanted the Gayatri mantra here as part of the pranam after Mahaprasad. Okay.
Right, but in the book, Mahaprasadam is after pranams.
because you're finishing the worship before you
Not before
and then
Gayatri.
you're offering everything
Oh, that's pretty far out. Okay. Thank you very much. That's a mistake.
Yeah, you're correct. Yeah, what you've got there is correct. I've got no idea how we missed that one.
Yeah, you wanted to show it, you said. I just wanted to show it, you said.
No, that's okay because it's good that you point this out because this is like the latest edition of the book and somehow or other Joanna and I overlooked that. Thank you. It's a mistake in the book.
It's a mistake.
Not in your book, in my book.
Okay.
Yeah. Your book's fine. It should be after you finish the worship. It should be after pranam. Yeah, because like that's something you'll do after the worship's complete. No, that's good. Someone got a pen there?
What is the right way?
This is in our book.
What's in your book is correct. Yeah?
Gayatri first and then after.
Yeah, so this is a mistake. I can't figure out how we overlooked that. Yeah?
Also, does it mention chanting Namo Mahavadanyaya?
The what?
You mentioned to chant Namo Mahavadanyaya in verse 16 instead of the Sri Krishna.
At the end.
Sorry?
In the book, it's two mantras are there in Gauranga. Anasita Charinchira,
Yeah,
Jai
yeah.
Jai Krishna Chaitanya.
Yeah.
But you told us other thing that chant Anasita Charinchira and Namo Mahavadanyaya.
What is in the book? Let's follow the book. Yeah.
Regarding
Yeah?
Gaurang.
Garanga.
Why is this order?
Huh?
Isn't that Lord Nityananda is serving Lord Gauranga?
Sorry?
Isn't that Lord Nityananda is helping to serve the Lord Gauranga?
Well, if you're at the level where you're participating in their Leela, you can do it whatever you like. But because we're at the stage of Vaidhi, we worship the Lord first. Yeah? And it's like, considerations of Leela don't really enter into deity worship at our stage of Bhakti. We're not advanced enough. Yeah? Yeah. Mahaprabhu, always Mahaprabhu first. When we're doing the worship, you offer the bowl, you offer everything to him first.
Why we are when we're
Yeah, I was having this discussion the other day, and the only thing I can conclude, and this is not conclusive because I need to check with Krishna Chetra Maharaj and ask him, and Banu Maharaj and ask them, is because the procedures used to be different, and it seems like they've changed some of the procedures, but not all of the procedures. And to do Gauranga first is more consistent with our Siddhanta. So I think the idea of going Guru, Prabhupada, Nityananda, Chaitanya, Radha Krishna together, and then whatever other deities, validate that's just how it was previously, and they haven't changed that. So yeah, but at least with this sort of Prachar Puja, just to Gauranga first for everything.
Ashwin, you mentioned that we have to, when we purify hands, we purify both hands, like in between.
Yeah.
Like sometimes we purify one hand, sometimes.
If I had the bell in that hand, then because I'm not touching anything but the bell's an associate of Krishna, and I should consider my hands dirty after touching a Vaishnava. Yeah. So because I'm holding on to him, I don't need to do that. Yeah. If I put him down and then they're going to do something else, then yes, I purified my hand. So as long as I held the bells, I don't purify the left hand. Yeah?
And if I rest my hands on my thighs, then
Got to purify them. From navel down is impure. You notice I didn't put anything on my cloth at all.
But hands, you can't rest at.
No, if you rest like that, like I'm not sitting cross-legged now, but like sometimes you might rest. But if I do that, I'll keep my hands up off my legs, because otherwise I've got to purify them. Yeah. If you touch anything below the navel, the floor, once you've offered something, you have to purify your hands. If you touch any of the gates of your body, you have to purify your hands, ears, eyes, nose, mouth, any of that sort of stuff. If you sneeze, you should.
The thing is, I've always wondered myself, when I've been dressing back in London, when we offer flower purchase to Prabhupada to the guru to begin with,
Yeah.
we do it before we purify the flowers.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah, because the thing is, like, what you're doing there is Guru Pangi Namaskar is requesting the Guru and the previous acharyas their blessings to begin the worship. But if you purify the flowers, it means you've already begun the worship.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just on the assessment, if devotees are running late, when it comes, for example, offering the prayers for offering the Boga, can they say Namo Mahabhudanaya 3 times, Namo Brahmanya Devaya 3 times, if they're running late in order to finish on time?
Well, what do you encourage the devotees to do on the altar?
Or they say, oh, they got a bit more time.
Exactly. So what I would say is just do the worship complete, right through to Angahinam Kriyahinam, Hare Krishna, and then you just lose out a little bit on your assessment on your punctuality mark. Yeah.
So they should say the full verse.
They should do the full worship, because see we're trying to assess devotees to see if they know the worship. So if they're cutting things out so they can finish on time. I remember one time he's one of the local pujaris here, and he was running quite late, and then he got to the bowl offer. He just started to go into this panic, and he was just like whizzing things like that. I was like, wow, what's he doing? And so it's not very devotional. So obviously, practice, be very methodical. Try to just like, don't be like a speed horse, like a racehorse kind of thing. Just be very plod along, very methodical. Just don't get lost, don't get distracted, don't get confused. Just one after the next up. There's a devotee in Cholpati, Sankirtan, really nice devotee. I trained him to do the shalagram worship there, and I was sitting there watching him do the worship, and I thought he's never going to finish on time. He's just like plodding along, just one thing after the other, and but he finished with like 10 or 15 minutes to spare, because he was just very steady. He wasn't racing, he wasn't slow. He was just, he just knew it by heart. He didn't have to look at the book.
Just another thing is that you offer madhupak like this without the bell. That's okay.
Yeah, I prefer to do it because, as I was mentioning, it's like if you're offering madhupak with a spoon, because madhupak is about 70% honey. So I mean, of course you can and wipe it off like that and then do it that way. But there's a good chance you'll drip honey all over the table.
So you can just offer like
you can do it like that. It's considered respectful. And the idea is they'll put their fingertips in the bowl and flick it into their mouth.
You don't need to drop like when you do other things. You drop a little bit in the Visarjan part.
Yeah, the prasad. It's not like I'm dropping a little bit. It's the prasad I'm putting in there because that remains bogus because I'm going to use it again. But with the madhupak, I only offer it once. And same with the argya. I just put the argya patra over there because I'm only using it once. But the padya and the archaman, you're using several times throughout the procedure. Yeah.
У нас в книге еще есть, что когда мы поклоняемся гуру и Шри Прабхупаде, нам нужно еще туласи положить обратную руку. Надо сейчас? Mataji asked that it mentioned in the book when we are doing with the spiritual master and Shri Prabhupada, we have to put tulasi leaf on their right.
It's optional. Optional.
It's written there.
It's there, but it says optional. You can if you want to. If you have time, it's nice. Prabhupada mentions it about someone was asking about offering tulsi to Radharani, and he said you can put in Radharani's hand, in a lotus hand. So you can do the same for the Guru, with the idea the Guru is offering to Krishna also. Yeah? Acharya Nista Prabhu.
When you're worshipping Guru and Srila Prabhupada, you're not saying Mula mantras when you're offering Banda and Pushpa?
Yeah, I just said it quietly.
Okay, but because of the so the student should say the Mula
What does it say in the book? Then don't worry. You can do it if you want to. If you're confident you'll get it done in time, then do it. But if you're not confident, then don't worry. Just offer it. The idea is to be as efficient as you can.
I noticed when you would wipe the table with the tablecloth, you wouldn't purify your hands after.
You didn't notice.
I did.
Yeah, because I purify my hand.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Every time I purify my hand.
Sorry.
Well, I mean, maybe once or twice, but generally speaking, every time I do something, I don't even think about it. Just put it on my hand. So if I forgot, then I forgot, but usually I do it all the time. And just you get in the habit of just anything you do, purify your hand, because you just want to be as pure as you can with this. Yeah.
When you do Dravya Shuddhi, you chant your Om Mantra first, and before you chant the Bija Mantra, you purified flowers in between.
No, you do Pushpa Shuddhi first, Dravya Shuddhi after.
Yes, there no.
Pushpa Shuddhi first. Yeah, Pushpa Shuddhi, then I did Pushpa, Pushpa, then I did Dravya, uncovered the water, I did Dravya Shuddhi, and then I chanted clinging over all of those things.
Confused was actually because Om Astra is not there for flowers. Just drop one.
Oh, okay, so like I said, I'm a product of telling you guys. No, but like if it's not in the book, then don't worry. It's just I just obviously just didn't think about that and just did it.
There's no Astra effort for Pushpa.
Huh?
Pushpa is only water, that is enough. So we have to Astra effort on Pushpa.
No, just what does it say here?
Only the not drops.
You should remember how to keep feedback. So,
Yeah, I'm a straight fat just there for flowers.
No, only just drop one.
Well, then you should add it in there then. I would add that. Yeah, I'm a straight fat for the flowers as well. Yeah. Huh? No, for the flowers and for the drop you do almost straight fat. Prabhu in the front here.
This is regarding the Dravya.
Yeah.
So, we were practicing using Om Astra effort once only, and for all the you use quite a number of times Om Astra effort.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just because I wanted to purify everything, and I knew like with the layout I wouldn't be able to get, purification over everything just one swoop. So water, this, just do almost straight fat because almost straight fat's invoking Sudarshan. So and then you've got water and wind, and I think I was explaining this to someone the other day. There's three elements of purification: wind, water, fire. So when you do almost straight fat with the water like that, there's all three of those things are present there. Yeah. So I wanted to make sure that I was purifying. At least in my consciousness, I'm purifying everything as best I can.
Yeah. You think we are supposed to take water again if
It's just almost straight fat. It's just a simple thing. I mean, how long did it take me to do that? 10 seconds, not even that. Yeah. But if you're going to go, just you got to become fluid with it. Don't get bogged down with the procedure. The main thing is the way you're interacting with deities. And this is the point I've made time and time again in regards to Janani Prabhu. He's not following procedures. So he's been worshipping the deities here since 1970. Whatever, 6 or what was it? I think it was it last year or the year before we celebrated his 40th year worshipping the deities here. That's bhakti. 40 years with the same deities. That's bhakti. So don't get bogged down that he did like this, he didn't do this, he didn't do it like that. And if I forgot something, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to forget anything. I meant to sort of show you the whole procedure. But so don't be so concerned that he might have left something out or did something different or. Just watch the way he does it. Watch the way he handles the deities, how he interacts with the deities. That's what you'll get from him more than anything else. Is that when you observe Janani Prabhu doing the deity worship, you don't get the sense that he's worshipping a deity. You get the sense that he's worshipping the Lord. He's there with the Lord, and that's what we want to learn: is how to be there with Krishna. So that's really important. So sometimes he'll do things differently. I mean, I remember I reported him doing shalagram worship 5 days in a row, and every day he did it different. The last day he had a piece of paper there because he realised he was doing it different every day. Don't worry about that. Yeah. Did I forget?
No,
Okay, so I forgot. That's all. Simple as that. I'm pretty sure it's the procedure. Like I can't emphasize that enough.
It's not part of the.
Isn't it?
No,
It's done with Alma Hashtai.
Hang on. Yeah, it's not here. Sorry about it. Maybe you probably can. I might make a note of this.
If Maya, because Maya, it was told that Maya is not a
No, everything's going to what it is. Hey, if we're all speaking at once, guess what? I can't figure out what's going on. Ram, please. Any other question?
Sorry, this point, last one. So the Abhishek water, we need to invite only.
Is it in your book?
No.
What about it? I'm just going to assess you on what's in the book. I'm not going to assess you on. The only thing I'd suggest you add is move the archman after up a bit, and on the straight up to the flowers. Yeah. Yeah.
Which face you do?
What?
East facing, that's what you say. Vaishnava is doing.
Face Krishna. If you're facing Krishna, you're always in the right direction. Because Krishna never looks in the wrong direction. He always looks in the right direction. You're facing Krishna. It's just like, I watch devotees in the temple room in the morning with amusement. It's like, they're chanting Gayatri, so they'll all sit there in front of Prabhupada and face the east. But what's the idea there? Is you're facing the source of illumination. Who's more illuminating, the sun or Prabhupada? Who can illuminate us more than Prabhupada has illuminated us? So you face the source of illumination, Prabhupada. So the same as you're facing the deity, you're facing the right direction. Because you're looking at the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What could be more important than looking at Him? And so these directions are not important. If you're facing the deity. And from what I understand, I haven't read it myself, I haven't read the whole Hari Bhakti Vilas, but from what I understand in the Hari Bhakti Vilas, it mentions like with certain deities, there's certain directions they should face. With Krishna, it doesn't matter, because it's all auspicious. So, yeah. Anything else? Bhakti Vasa, right? Balagopal. Just have a repeat.
I want to know the significance of giving Achaman after bathing the deities.
Well, yeah, see, can I sit on this chair? Is that all right?
Yes.
It's killing me sitting on the floor. That's one of the things you've got to look forward to as you get older, is bits and pieces of your body stop working. In the procedure before, what it was, what they had put there was Vastra, Archman, Upavita, Archman, Tila, Archman. We thought that was a little bit too much. So then we cut it back to, because generally, after you dress, you should wash your mouth, before you do dietary, you do Archman, when you put on Tila, you should do Archman, stuff like that. But from recollection, what we did is we looked in the Chaitanya Charitamrita and found that Prabhupada put the Archman after the Brahman thread. So that's what we've done here, is just put it after the Brahman thread.
We're asking why asking after dressing.
No, but it's saying put it after Upavit. Yeah, because that's when Prabhupada mentions to do it, is after Upavit. No, not before Gayatri, after Upavit. But it could be, he's putting the Brahman thread on, then he's chanting Gayatri. I'm not sure, because Prabhupada doesn't explain it.
As you said, in the beginning we had like 3 times Archman.
Yeah, that's what I just said. Yeah, it was just too much, Yeah, Vastra Archman, Upavit Archman, Tilak Archman, Archman.
Okay.
I'm not a very good pujari. I just know the right devotees to ask the right questions. That's all. So I'm doing my best.
How Shaligam differs from?
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. There's different forms. This is where worship is.
Just a question about the assessment. If devotee is doing the assessment and they go blank and they can't think of the next stage, can their friends hint or tell them the next stage?
Well, just go through your mind. In your mind, just go,
Asan Swaga Padyam Arga Asham Marapakun Ashmasnan Vasvalan Ganda Bushma. Become confident with that. If the one thing you can do to help yourself the best is to become confident. Because the thing is, like, if you look at the facilitator's assessment sheet, right, all the 16 upachars are all bolded. They're the major assessment points. Yeah? The various details in between there are not as important as getting the 16 upachars. So if you miss out a little detail here and there, it's not going to affect your mark as much as if you miss one of the upachars. Yeah? You can miss 3, 4, 5 things. It's not going to affect your mark as much as if you miss out one of the upachars. So
can
just
the students sing along with the mantras, or should they just be quiet?
I would say that when we're doing the assessment group in 1 or 2, fine. But when we're doing 2 in 1 room, don't do it, because then you'll be hinting to people in the next group. You may be hinting them what's coming next.
My experience can be also disturbing for the assessed.
Yeah, they can be disturbing. So better to avoid singing along.
If Shilpramurti is there, how to do this Padyam?
Let's just stick to this. Yeah.
No need to do
That's a separate conversation. Let's stick to this because what we're trying to do is prepare you all for assessment. You're not being assessed with a Prabhupada record, so it's not relevant.
because you know there
No, we can talk about it later. Yeah, you can ask me later, no problem.
Many times I'm confused with idam and ether. I get the upachara correct, but idam, ether, all these I get confused.
Yeah, you're not going to lose marks on that. They're masculine, feminine, neutral. And like, how it is that OPACA is feminine, I don't know. What's feminine about yogurt and honey? To me, they're neutral things, but there's a reason for it. Huh? Well, Banamara knows. Yes, quite essential. Any other questions, ladies?
I was just wondering, you turn in the deities so many times when you Polish.
Yeah.
And you just turn in like.
Yeah.
And Charanishta was saying like lift it little bit and turn.
Huh?
And Charanishta was saying lift it little bit and then turn.
Well, they're in the bathing tray, so that's all right. I would say don't drag them on the table. Because you'll take the polish off the table in the bathing tray. If you want to, that's fine, but it'll take you longer. Yeah? The main point there is like, I don't know if anyone's looked, but is there any tilak on the back of the deities?
No.
That's the point, because if there is tilak on the back of the deities, that will affect the result.
There is some flower petals on the base. Yes, flower petals.
Yeah, okay.
That's alright.
So maybe I should have got that off.
Just asking for the assessment.
No, I mean it's like you try to clean them thoroughly so that there's nothing left there, and that's why I use plenty of water. Like I say, I usually have 2 pots like that with water. I want to make sure they're really clean.
So during assessment, can we ask for more water if
Use 2 pots if you need to, because you've got 2 sets you're using, so you can use 2 pots. If you find you need to use 2 pots to do it properly. I mean, it should be enough, but I just use a lot of water. I always have used a lot of water.
Can we use another pot to empty the water once we bathe Gauranga and then?
What would be the point of that?
If the tray is full of water. And then
Oh, I see. Well, I mean, I didn't fill the tray up. It'll take a pot and a half easily. I mean, yeah, I don't think you need to. There's more paraphernalia in the set than you need. Yeah, so I don't think you need to use anything more. Okay.
That water is getting distributed as Sharanapli?
I wouldn't.
Any volunteers to drink it?
It's got tilak in it. I remember in Melbourne Temple years ago when I lived there, the Pujari used to come out after polishing Gaurnitai. They've got these brass Gaurnitai which are about this tall. They weigh 3/4 of a ton each. And he would come out with the water they used to polish it, these with tilak, and he poured it on this tree every day for years. He killed the tree. Because the tilak just sort of, clogged up the roots and everything like that.
Normally we take in London, we take a couple of spoonfuls out, small amounts, and put in the jar and reach. Not the whole thing. Just take a little bit out.
Don't you just use Giriraj?
It was Giriraj and Gaurnitai.
Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't use it. We just use
Yeah.
Можем мы благовонию и лампу зажигать через зажигалку или нужно использовать это? What is the, can we use the lighters so it should be on the switches? What is it? How is it?
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
I mean, you can go to some temples where they figure if you touch a lighter or a box of matches, you got to go take a bath. They bring the fire to the kitchen, but we don't have that.
Sometimes lamps like dangerous as well, especially if you're in sari. You forget there's a lamp burning, and sometimes take that into consideration. If it's a small water, it might be best without.
Yeah, be very careful in silk clothes around a flame because silk is really, really flammable.
Fast.
Burns really fast.
Less than a second, the whole.
Tell you a funny story later. That's right.
What do you do if I don't have a spiritual master?
Huh?
What do I do if I don't have a guru?
Take a shot of Prabhupada.
Do I chant?
For the assessment.
Yeah. Do I chant? Do I say that I'm chanting my
But
spiritual
just go
master?
through the whole procedure because we're assessing you on the procedure.
Okay. So
But practically
I'm just gonna
speaking-
say I'm chanting my spiritual masters for now.
Yeah.
Okay. Nothing else.
Just so we know you know the procedure, but you know, in practical reality, you know, if your guru falls down or something like that, you just take shame of Prabhupada.
So,
Yeah, so you
I
would
skip
fit that
just
procedure.
this part and I still keep chanting like Shri Guru Paramananda Premananda.
You still do that, but
Yeah.
that's for Rupangi Namaskar.
For Prabhupada.
Yeah.
Okay. That's it. Thank you.
Like we move deities, touch deities, can we hold their, hold only their base or we can touch other parts of?
Yeah, I mean, you may have noticed I was holding their arms sometimes when I was polishing them, because the main thing is I don't want them to shake around all over the place.
I was finding some are very heavy. So,
Yeah, the ones with you can remove from the bases are quite heavy. And especially ones with you can remove the base, they do rattle around the base a bit. So you probably want to hold them. Some devotees will hold a cloth or some cotton wool between them and the deities because they don't want to touch them with their left hand. But the injunction in the scriptures is not to touch them with the left hand directly during bathing. So when you're actually bathing with water, don't touch them with your left hand. And if there's something on their face you want to wash off, take the conch in your left hand and remove it with your right hand. But don't touch them during bathing with your left hand.
and say that to avoid like tilak going on their eyes,
Yeah.
painted areas. So
But if the tilak does go in their eyes, just meditate their eyes are closed.
I think means when we are offering with that conscious,
this one, maybe what you said, like you can put chandan on the garland or scent on the cloth, won't it stain the cloth? Like you said, you can apply some scent on the
But I did say not to use this oil because this is saffron and it's quite strong orange and it will stain things, whereas you can use a lighter, is what I said, use a lighter sort of an oil.
some kind of
Huh?
yeah,
Yeah, so like maybe a bit of rose oil or something like that because Prabhu, there you go. Bit of rose oil because rose oil is clear. I mean, you might want to dilute it a bit because it's very expensive, like 1 gram is 1,200 rupees, I think now. So, yeah. So was that helpful?
Yes.
Just one more clarification regarding when we are wiping off our hands from our chadar, so it needs to purify it, or is it not right?
It depends what you're doing, really, because chada's your upper cloth, so it's clean. It should be clean. I mean, I went home and got a fresh chada to do the worship. Like if you're doing something that requires you to have dry hands, then wipe your hands on your chada and then do it. You purify your hands so they're pure. Dry your hands on your upper cloth. Same with ladies, you can use the upper cloth of your sari. So just like your head cloth or something like that. Well, not like tilak all over. Just like that, just like you're doing there. Don't wipe tilak all over. People will think it's a strict person or something. But if you're doing something that requires you to have dry hands,
you know, with the deities. You don't want to go putting water all over their clothes and stuff like that. You know? So it's okay. Krishna Kanta Prabhu.
The chant was said regarding you can keep a towel on your feet,
Lap, yeah.
on your laps, and you can dry your hand with a towel. You can try to have it
Towel on the lap.
Yeah, you can that extra for only for drying the hands.
Yeah,
But
then
you would later you would purify your hand again.
yeah, but if you keep the towel on your lap, then before you touch anything, you're going to offer the deities or the deities, you need to purify your hand because it's on the lower cloth. So because they're cotton when it comes into contact with the floor or anything unclean, the whole cloth is contaminated. Wool's different. You know, like silk, it's only the part that touches the contaminated thing becomes contaminated. Wool doesn't become contaminated. Yeah.
Wool doesn't get
Sure.
even on the floor.
Yeah, but it's not very absorbent. Cotton's the most absorbent, so it's good. And that's why I was saying with Acharya, I don't think they're cotton. They're not very absorbent.
Dhoti is considered contaminated in that.
Anything from the navel down is contaminated. Yeah, so don't put things on the lower cloth. Yeah, last. Huh?
Before wiping with the cotton, like after polishing them with chandan and before starting the bathing with the conch, you took the pot and poured water over them before wiping with the cotton. We can do that for the assessment, right?
Definitely, because the idea is to rinse the tilak off. Whatever you need to do to get most of the tilak off, do that. And that's like rinsing with the water like that gets most of the tilak off. Then use the cotton wool to get the rest of the tilak off. And then by the time you finish bathing, you might have a little smudge of tilak here and there which you'll remove when you wipe the towel. Okay? So thank you very much. And,
Yes.
yeah.
Many deities